Hi there. Okay, I have no patience with these people. Especially rhinos, that's Republicans in name only, that want to show how ethical or principled they are. Can't they see that they are being used by the mainstream media and the Democrats to further attack our president? First of all, who on the left does this? Was there a single Democrat in the Senate that voted against the impeachment of our president? This charade? No, because if they did, they would be creamed, attacked mercilessly. I mean, that's what's happened in the climate change debate. So one of the thoughts I have is, don't let the mainstream media and the Dems set the agenda. I mean, the whole thing about Roger Stone, for example. Why are we even asking about this or attacking the president on his tweet? Who cares? Let him tweet. It is just, they criticize, so then we're forced to defend. Or they're on the offense and we're on the defense. And we shouldn't do that. No more. I'm convinced that a lot of the reasons that our president can't take action on draining the swamp as much as he would like is that any small action he takes, like let's say people say, oh, he should pardon Roger Stone. And of course he would want to pardon Roger Stone. But what would happen? They'd start impeachment proceedings again. I mean, they just make stuff up. So, first of all, he has to be reelected, but he has to take back the House. Otherwise, this never ends. We have to take back the House. I mean, because what has been shown to us is that they will attack over nothing. Basically nothing. The president just doing his job, they will attack him. I mean, he does it differently, but he's not wrong. So I just heard an interview on Lou Dobbs with Robert O'Brien, the National Security Council advisor. And I'm really glad to make a big deal about they get rid of Colonel Vindeman, Lieutenant Colonel Vindeman, that pompous dude. Get rid of him in the NSC as if he had a right to serve there. And they moved him over to the Pentagon. So what? So what? They act like it's retaliation. So this Robert O'Brien, what he's doing is he's cutting out. I mean, it's the NSC staff is just way too big. And so he's going to get it down. I mean, you just got to fight these people other ways. But in his second term, President Trump can do a lot. And as you know, many of you know, from my walkaway video, the reason I became this longtime Democrat, became a Republican and became a conservative is because of the whole climate alarmism thing. And it took me a long time to get there, but I'm really there now. And I'm hoping that in President Trump's second term, he's able to take action to clear out some of the temperature data tampers at NOAA and NASA. And Tony Heller talks a lot about this. I mean, we have a lot of government scientists that aren't really scientists. They have an agenda. And they're just pushing this climate alarmism business. There's a lot of ways to attack the climate alarmism. And I know most of you who listen to this channel, you have similar feelings about that I do. I would encourage you, well, both in your support of President Trump and in fighting the whole climate alarmism thing, try speaking out. I know how difficult that is for many people. I mean, you know it's wrong, but you just don't want to take on the science, you don't have to take on the science. Just find something simple to say, like, oh, I don't believe scare stories, or I like this president. I like him a lot. I think he's a great president. Just say it. Be brave. Just say it. Because the more you do, trust me, the easier it gets. I remember when I was first starting to, really be an advocate for nuclear power and other things, I found it hard to bring up and have discussions along that lines. And now, as you can see from these videos, it's very easy for me to do. But it wasn't at first. It was very difficult. I mean, I knew what I thought, but I just had a hard time articulating it. So start small, but do it. Just do it. We need to speak out. So let me tell you about a speech I gave. This was in April of 2017, and I was like the welcoming address to this little Femineers group at Cal Poly Pomona. It was mostly Hispanic kids from like in the Los Angeles area, kind of middle school, 5th graders, and girls. It was called Femineers because it was to try to get them interested into STEM fields. And it was on a Saturday, so they all got in buses and they came, and it was fun. I mean, the engineering that they did was just sewing LEDs into their clothes and things like that, which was, I don't know if I agree with that. And also, I think it's something that little boys are interested in as well. This is the way I feel now in terms of, I don't think we need to push little girls into that. Just let them know that these fields are open to them, and some will be interested and some won't. So I gave, by the way, you can find this talk if you go to DeborahCastleman.com. I talk about my Femineer talk, and you can just click on it and read it. But here's what I ended with. And the reason why I bring this up, first of all, I think it was a very good ending for little kids. But, so I was talking about them, what being an engineer was like and what a career. But it was, I had a feeling, and maybe it was my own paranoia, but I had a feeling that there was disapproval for these remarks. And one of the women I saw on Twitter, she had tweeted one of her physicist friends, like, look what she said, it's wrong. And I sent them, and he said, yeah, she's wrong. And then I sent them the article, the NASA article about this. And I said, what about this science don't you agree with? But my point is that it was hard for me to do that. And now I look at this and I say, it'd be really easy for me to do this now. And I would do it and defend it and say, of course, why not? Why are we scaring kids? In other words, I feel stronger about this now, almost 3 years later, than I did then. It does help to practice, but at first, it does feel scary. But just do it. I encourage you. Okay, so here's what I said. In closing, I want to say something else. Remember, I'm talking to 5th graders, so my language is kind of simple here. This is a really good time to be alive. You are living in a country where anything is possible, and you can achieve your dreams if you set your mind to it. I used to worry when I was younger. There were a lot of stories in the newspaper and on television of how bad things would be happening in the future. On the very first Earth Day in 1970, I read an article in the newspaper that said that the Earth wouldn't be around in 40 years. I also read that there would be a population bomb, where there would be too many people on the Earth, and there wouldn't be enough food for everyone. None of these things turned out to be true. Instead, air and water pollution in the United States have decreased since then. More and more people around the world have access to energy, to food, to good health, and more wealth than ever before. And we now have global television, computers, the internet, smartphones, cars that don't break down all the time. That was a big worry for me in college. Widespread air travel. So many things that we didn't have when I was your age. Almost all of this is due to the work of engineers. We make the world a better place. Today, I don't like it when I hear that the planet needs saving. The planet is doing just fine, and in fact has gotten greener since we've been putting more carbon dioxide into the air. I now know that there will always be scary stories like the ones I read about when I was 16, because there is something in human nature that likes to think we humans are bad and are ruining everything. So just because you hear that bad things are going to happen, you don't have to believe it. Instead, be excited at the great future you have ahead of you. That was the end of my speech. Okay, now I'm going to talk about President Trump. Not the normal things that you hear, because you can get that elsewhere. By the way, I was thinking about my last talk where I was talking about all the Fox shows I like it. I thought, you might get the impression that all I do is watch TV. But that's not really true. I have this stuff on because I do a lot of exercising, stretching to keep up my flexibility. And when I do those things and I do my chores, I always have it on. So I'm a political junkie, sort of, so I listen to a lot of these shows for that reason. But I never just like sit down and watch. That's not how I do it. And you could do that like with my videos. Like you don't have to sit and watch my video. You can put it on while you're doing your chores because, you know, the scenery doesn't change that much. I'm just talking. So you don't have to, you can do two things at once. Okay, this is about President Trump and this whole climate change thing. How do you attack it? I'm quite sure he knows that the science is not good, but it's very hard for many people to take on the science. So he's instead, probably from a political point of view, for right now, this is a good way to do it. He's focused on the cost and the practical aspects. However, as you know, I listen very, very carefully to what our president says. And I am detecting that he is sneaking more stuff in there. I like that. So I listen to, I love listening to his speeches. So President Trump is speaking to the National Border Patrol Council. I just love listening to the whole thing. But he was talking about the fence. So let me tell you what he said. He said, we're going to spray paint it after it's up. It gets spray painted black. The black makes it extraordinarily hot, especially in areas along the Mexican border. Not known for cold weather. It's known for hot weather. You don't have too much snow in this area, right? Wouldn't you say that, Chad? Not too much. In fact, if you had any, that would be called climate change, I think, right? When they do that, I'm there, I'm a believer. And I heard whoop and laughter and clapping in the audience. So I found that, and I want you to hear it with your own ears. I hope I have the volume up high. Some of you complain about my volume. But anyway, but then I decided to go back. You really have to, you don't have to, I keep saying that, but our president is a builder. He loves this stuff. Imagine him building all these buildings, okay? And right now, he kind of can't do that. So he just gets into the details of the wall. He just loves this stuff. He loves working with these guys because this has been his whole career. So I know a lot of you, you have busy lives. You don't have time to listen carefully to all his speeches. So let me just play this.
And I don't know if you can see this, but it's pretty impressive. These are different pictures, different shots
He's showing him the
of
pictures.
the wall. This is going up. We have in Arizona. This is in El Paso. We have
He loves
New
the
Mexico
details.
going up. This is the wall going up. They're working at night, as you can see. Either that or it's an extremely dark day. And that crew is, that's also in El Paso. So we're putting it up. The panel on top, just in case people want to know, because I would have loved it without the panel. But actually it's called an anti-climb panel. It makes it very tough to climb over the top. It's...
Oh, so I just paused it. We'll finish. But note here, this is what I love. Okay, so he had his idea about it'd be a cement wall or whatever. But he talked with the people. He found out what's the best way to do this. I mean, don't you want that in your president? He doesn't go in, I mean, he has a general idea that, yes, we want to build a wall. And he wants the cost to be low. But he worked with the people. And you see why they love him, why we love him, why I love him? Okay, so just listen to him. So he's just loving this stuff. And I was thinking as he was giving this speech, I don't know, some people in the House were passing resolutions condemning him for his Roger Stone tweet. And I'm like, he's doing stuff. And they're, whatever.
Designed in a certain way that makes it very, very tough. So, in fact, we've had to bring in the fire departments and things to get people down. They've climbed the wall, sometimes with drugs on their back, oftentimes, and they're great climbers, but they couldn't get over the top anti-climb panel. So, if people wonder what that is, I like to say it because it's an incredible thing. It makes it virtually impossible to climb over the top. And we had it designed many different ways. We had them tested, and this was the ultimate wall. This is what they wanted.
He's really into the details here.
This is a shot of a little different section.
So he's showing
also under construction. And we'll soon have, we think by the end of the year, we'll be up to over 400 miles. And shortly thereafter, we'll be at 500 miles. And then we'll determine if there's any other area that might need it, but we'll have covered, we think, close to 100% of the area that we wanted. Here's another shot of a section, the same section actually, that's more advanced, and that's the way they put it up. They set it very deep into foundations and concrete. And
notice the detail that he goes into. They set it deep into the ground with concrete, and he gets into the rebar. I mean, I love it.
And it's steel with concrete in between, and if you've ever seen it, the bars are steel, they're hollow.
They're hollow.
And they pour concrete inside and then put rebar in. So they have the rebar first. Rebar is the steel. And they put it inside and then they pour the concrete. And because of the tremendous weight, they have to pour the concrete after it's up. So it's a process that's pretty complicated, but pretty good. Otherwise, it would be very hard to put it up. It gets very heavy. So they pour in each one of the bars. And the reason they want the bars, they have to be able to see through, because they want to see who's on the other side. I thought I could put up a nice, simple concrete wall. It would be so nice, I'd just get it done. They have to make it complicated. This project was complicated, but I said if we're going to...
So, I just love this president. He wanted it to be simple, just to be concrete. But when he listened to them, he found out, okay, it doesn't work that way. He listened to them. He heard what the problems were. And so he's talking about that. He's getting to the detail because he loves this stuff.
To do it, we have to do it right. So Brad and all of his people, from day one, this is the one they wanted. They needed anti-climb on top. They needed see-through. They wanted it to be steel rather than concrete. Steel is much stronger, but they also wanted the durability of the concrete, which is inside the steel with rebar. So inside there is really like a, it's probably about 8 inches by 8 inches. And it's all hollow inside, and after it's up, we have rebar in, it's already dropped, and then we put the concrete in. They pour the concrete inside.
He loves
through
these
funnels.
details.
So it's a pretty amazing process, and they're doing it quickly. They have a very quick process. We're
Good
now
job.
going to probably bring it in. We're going to spray paint it after.
This is the part I read
After
you.
it's up, it gets spray painted black. The black makes it extraordinarily hot, especially in areas along the Mexican border. It's not known for cold weather. It's known for quite hot weather. You don't have too much snow in this area, right? Would you say, Chad? Not too much. In fact, if you had any, that would be called climate change, I think, right? When they do that, I'm there. I'm a believer.
Woo! I'll stop there. So he's kind of throwing that stuff in, letting it be known that, don't worry about the climate change thing.
Washington politics.
Okay. So, I've been reading a lot of articles, and there's so many different things I could point you to. But one of the things I'm bothered about, or I don't want to be bothered. I don't know what the word is, but I'm something. And it's the hijacking of the term environment, and even the term green. First of all, when you're talking about lowering CO2 emissions, renewables via renewables, they're ugly, okay? You lower CO2, we also become less green. But renewables are ugly and they're landscape intensive. They ruin our natural environments. Whatever. And there's lots of toxic chemicals. So President Trump, as many of you know in some of his rallies, he's talked about the intermittency of windmills. But now, when he was at his rally in New Hampshire, I noticed he added one more thing. Now he talks about the fact that they kill a lot of birds. So I'm playing this for you too, just this part.
Stations, you know this. They shuttered New Hampshire factories. You were one of the worst examples ever. NAFTA. What NAFTA did to your communities, to your state, is incredible. Shattered your communities and sacrificed your jobs on the altar of globalism. We can forget globalism. We want to take care of our country.
I may have gone back too early.
New Hampshire alone lost 1 in 4 manufacturing jobs following that twin disaster of NAFTA and China's entrance into the WTO, the World Trade Organization.
I'm sorry.
One of the truly bad...
I think I went too far. Darn. And I don't edit these videos, so... But, you're listening to President Trump. How bad can that be? Let me try.
Healthcare, expanded paid leave.
I am sorry.
And given 40 million American families an average of $2,200 more in their pockets.
It's right after this.
Thanks to the Republican child tax credit. Who would have thought that? We have cut more job-killing regulations.
Okay, here we are.
You know this one. So you go back 4 years, 8 years, in one case longer than 8 years. We've cut more job-killing regulations than any other administration in the history of our country. And we're not finished. And we've ended the war on American energy. They want to take our energy away. They want to take our wealth away. They want to give us wind. If it blows, wonderful. If it doesn't blow, you got problems. Wind. They want to destroy our countrysides, put windmills all over them.
Destroy our countrysides.
Watch your house go down in value. You ever see what happens? They build a windmill within distance of your house. You could forget about your house. You could just say, well, that was the end of that investment. You want to see a bird graveyard? Go to the bottom of a windmill. Take a look. It's a graveyard for birds. They kill all the birds, lowering utility bills and reducing prices at the pump. That's what we're doing. We are reversing decades of calamitous trade policies.
Okay, so there were 2 new things he brought up about windmills, that they kind of destroy the landscape. Forgot exactly what words he used, but definitely I had not heard him talking about them killing birds. So I'm just noticing he's putting a little more in there. Okay. It's not that hard. There's a lot of people, yes, you have a lot of people who are really, really upset about the climate catastrophe, but then there's a lot, even young people. So once you establish a relationship with someone, you can bring those things up. And it's not that hard to just say, no, don't worry about that. I don't try to convince the true believers. It's a religion. Oh my gosh, there's so many things I could talk about. But let me mention a Wall Street Journal article that, thank you, Diane Milligan. She pointed out that this article in the Wall Street Journal, unfortunately, unless you have a subscription to the Wall Street Journal, you can't read it. But it was by Bobby Jindal, as many of you know, who was, he was the governor of Louisiana from 2008 to 2016. And he was a candidate for the 2016 Republican presidential nomination. But the title is, Democrats Want a Prophet, Not a President. So he mentioned several different things, but let me talk about the climate alarmism issue. He said, Democrats have moved beyond, the Democrats, it starts this way. The Democrats have turned religious, not in the sense that they espouse a belief in an omnipotent and benevolent creator or eternal and universal moral principles. They are religious in the sense that they hold dogmatic beliefs that are impervious to contradiction by logic, evidence, or experience, and cultivate a moral superiority toward unbelievers. Cultivate a moral superiority toward unbelievers. Ain't that the truth? The party that loudly prides itself on tolerance and diversity is increasingly intolerant in many areas. So I won't go into the whole article, but he said Democrats have moved beyond traditional environmentalism with its emphasis on regulation, technological innovation, and market incentives. Well, I don't want carbon markets, but I don't know what he means by market incentives, to achieve incremental progress. Instead, they've gone toward a radical vision grounded in an unshakable belief in climate apocalypse. Both parties once cooperated to protect endangered species and clean the air, water, and soil. Today's Democrats, and that's virtually all of them, even the so-called moderates, there are no moderates left in the Democratic Party, at least the ones running for president. I'll talk more about that in future videos. They demand bans on fracking and new oil and gas leases on federal lands and endorse the elimination of all fossil fuels and decarbonation of the economy. And he says in unrealistic time frames. I'm saying in any time frame, that's stupid. I mean, really not a good idea. Democrats use these impossible goals as rationales for completely restructuring how Americans live, work, commute, and even eat. Now, it's more than that. It's total government control over your life. More radical activists regard eating meat, driving SUVs, having children, flying and using plastic straws as akin to moral sins. Senator Bernie Sanders denounced the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement endorsed by the AFL-CIO because it was silent on climate change. Green purity trumps all competing goals. Democrats divide the world into progressive fellow travelers and climate change deniers. Anyway, he goes on with a bunch of other stuff. But here's the interesting thing he closes on, point he closes on. While Democrats have become more dogmatic in the Trump era, Republicans have demonstrated a new flexibility. To get the deregulation and judges they value, many have jettisoned orthodoxies on free trade, on immigration, small government, and entitlement reform. They may frustrate traditional conservatives, but it's proving popular with voters increasingly disenchanted with both parties. The left simply can't compromise. Well, I don't know if I agree with all that, but I like the fact what he talked about, Republicans being more flexible in what they're promoting. Okay, I don't really have a few more minutes, but there was a very good article in Forbes, February 9th, 2020, a climate blacklist that works. It should make her unhirable in academia. I mean, it's really, really disgusting. It's yet one more example of people, any academic that comes out or questions some of the climate orthodoxy are unhirable in academia. It's pretty bad. And it's not just one person. This has been going on a long time. And I think for me, that really changed my mind. So my favorite people on the web right now, and I would, in this issue, of course, are Tony Heller. Everybody should watch Tony Heller. He's absolutely the best. And there's a lot of good YouTube videos by Patrick Moore. I really like Patrick Moore. He's just, both those people, they're so smart and angry. Of course they're angry, okay? They see what's happening. I get that. I'm angry. I'm very angry about that. And so we have to fight back. We have to fight back. And I don't agree that all young people think that the world is ending. They've heard this stuff, but we can counter it. And the thing, what I like the best is what our president is doing is by not following all these green policies, getting us out of the Paris Climate Accord, we still have the cleanest environment and the best economy in the world. And we're doing really well. And so why would you hurt yourself that way in your country with all this virtue signaling? Because that's what you're doing. You're just dragging your economy down. You're making life harder for people. And so we have that to demonstrate. We have proof of that. And that's why we'll win. So just stay strong, be happy, enjoy the battle, but we're on the winning side. Talk to you later.